We are joined now by Nicholas Eberstadt, who's the author of the new essay collection called Human Arithmetic. Very, very interesting new book. Nicholas Eberstadt, thank you so much for joining us here on Breaking Points this morning. We appreciate it.
Hey, thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, of course. I wanted to start with a section here from the introduction of the book, where you talk about how the damage from America's men without work problem, which you have written extensively on, quote, radiates outward. Their unnatural condition makes for slower economic growth, wider income and wealth gaps, increased welfare dependency, reduced social mobility, more fragile families, and a weaker civil society. And you go on, make some really interesting points here, but I wanted to ask that in the context of this news report. We can put this from Wall Street Journal up on the screen. The headline here, companies predict 2026 will be the worst college grad job market in 5 years. And I thought this was a good place to start, Nick, because you've been following this particular problem, and actually you've been helping us understand it with data and explanations, socioeconomic explanations for a long time. It seems as though this problem is poised to get worse, but I'm curious if you agree with that, what you're seeing in the data right now, and how people should be thinking about it.
Well, it would be a little bit more helpful if the government were actually producing the monthly data on the jobs reports that we kind of like to analyze. But we've been seeing a gradual flight from work by men and by older people. That the other older people part is new. We're also seeing a somewhat weaker job market now, and that's probably not surprising given some of the uncertainties, real and perhaps needless, that we see in the job market now, in the economic outlook. Some of this is policy created, some of this is business cycle. I don't think I would make generalizations about long-term trends from a single year. Let's just say that.
Well, I mean, so what are you seeing overall when it comes to young men, and what has surprised you? And has anything surprised you about it, as somebody who's been kind of monitoring this for some time?
Well, I mean, the only thing that's a surprise is that so many people seem to be surprised by it. This didn't start yesterday. This is a historical trend that's been underway since the 1960s. But because we are still fighting the last war with our employment numbers, our jobs reports our framework was developed in 39 and 40 to track the Great Depression, when it would have seemed outlandish to think that a guy who didn't have a job wouldn't be looking for one. So we have a set of numbers that are great for looking at unemployment, but nowadays, for every guy who's out of work and looking for a job, there are over 3 who are not looking for work. And if you are using just the unemployment metric, you're missing over 3/4 of the problem. We have a work rate for 25 to 54-year-old guys today that is basically at the 1940 level, which is the tail end of the Great Depression. So we've got a Great Depression scale problem for work for guys. And if we don't look at it, we're going to be surprised by a lot of other things that are happening in America.
And it's amazing how it lurks under the surface and gets so little attention in the ways that you describe it, because you've studied for a long time the effect, particularly that deindustrialization, but also welfare programs. And you and I may disagree a bit with Ryan on that. But if we focus on deindustrialization, just specifically with this AI transformation of the economy coming, we've seen the effects that these rapid changes in jobs have had in places like where I'm from, the Rust Belt, and outside Milwaukee, for example. Is that something people seem like they're about to replicate at an even larger scale with AI? How are you thinking about the changes that are about to appear like they're about to happen in the American economy with the examples we've seen over the last several decades?
I don't want to make a fool of myself in front of you by making categorical predictions about AI
That's fair.
because it's evolving so rapidly that I'm not sure that anybody knows exactly where it's going to be in 5 years, much less 15 years. What we can say in general, looking at past technological innovations, is that people who have skills are able to kind of harness the new technologies and multiply their productivity and their incomes, and people who don't have skills are more likely to be displaced. So under any circumstances, we'd want to be skilling up our young people. But in the face of this new AI wave, that makes it, I think, even more imperative. I should say that one thing we also miss about what's going on in the United States is the extraordinary variety, disparity of circumstances from one community to the next. When I was a young guy, we'd talk about, the Deep South or Appalachia or later the Rust Belt. But again, this is something that kind of escapes us because we don't collect good information on it all the time. 3/4 of the difference in work rates and workforce participation rates for young adults, for young guys, is now within states. I mean, you go 10 miles and you find radically different employment prospects, community prospects, all within given states in the USA. And we're kind of blind to this because number one, we don't collect the right information for it. Our information systems are way behind the times. Number two, we need journalists who will actually go out and talk to human beings, and take a bus and go from one community to the next. Because doing that, you get the kind of the human face on this nerdy sort of number stuff that I do in my basement, so to speak.
And so you talked about there being 3 men, what, you say 25 to 34 or 25 to 44?
25 to 54 is the usual.
So 25
range
to
they give
54.
for
So
employment.
for every man who's looking for work and can't find it in that category, there are 3 men who aren't looking for work. And I think all of us can answer this question kind of anecdotally and make our own guesses at it. But what do the data say about how those men are surviving? Like, how are they? Where are they living? How are they getting by? How are they feeding themselves? If they have families, how are they feeding their families?
Well, as best one can tell from the limited information we have, that's numbers and things that I sift through, they get by with help of their they get by with the help of their friends, they get by with the help of their family, and they get by with the help of their uncle, and his name is Sam. There's over half of the guys who are neither working nor looking for work seem to be obtaining one or more disability program benefits. I'd be a little more informative about this, except that our crazy quilt of disability programs don't talk to each other. And so there's nobody in Washington who can tell you exactly how many Americans, much less prime age guys, are obtaining these disability benefits. You can't live a princely life on them, but quite evidently it is possible to live a life where you do not engage with the with the labor market anymore.
And you also, oh, Ryan, did you have?
No.
Okay. You also write sort of about the effect this has on the spiritual condition of the country, on young men in particular, and in light of the news yesterday, we can put this on the screen. This is ProPublica reporting that the Trump administration appears to have attempted to help Andrew Tate. The ProPublica headline is White House intervened on behalf of accused sex trafficker Andrew Tate during a federal investigation. But Nick, there's so much discourse at the moment about Nick Fuentes and Andrew Tate and young men. And just because you're somebody who studied this for so long, what's your, I guess, perspective on this swirl of controversy? Is the economic well-being related to the spiritual well-being of young men in a way that seems to be fueling any of these trends? What do you make of it?
Well, I'm a grandfather. I'm a couple of generations removed from this stuff, but I've got ears and eyes. Um, there's a world of hurt and loneliness and despair out there that wasn't at all comparable, when I was that age. Uh, we've got a lot more loneliness. We've got a lot more family breakdown. We've got a lot more spiritual angst. Um, we've got a lot more. We've got a lot more dependence on substances than we had back then. And if you are isolated, if you're cut off from work, if you're cut off from family, if for whatever reason you're cut off from faith and from your community, you suffer for that. I mean, there's a reason that that a lot of people think that solitary confinement is cruel and unusual punishment. So we've got to do, I think we've got to do a much better job of, reaching vulnerable groups in our country. And part of what we've got going on, I think, is this monumental empathy gap between the describers and deciders in the United States and little people who are suffering.
So have you seen anything work? Any pilot programs? Any efforts by communities to prevent plant closures, or in places where you have workers take they're going to shut a plant down, but the workers take it over and keep it going? I think some famous cases of that.
A couple of thoughts. One is we could look around the country and see where there are healthy communities and where there are communities that are really struggling, because there's an enormous range and disparity of social success in communities in the United States, and they're mostly within states, not across states, as I mentioned. And a little bit of curiosity about human beings might help at this point in our national history. I mean, that's one thing to mention. Another thing to mention is the extraordinary problem of ex-cons in America, because the ex-cons are almost invisible in our country, and yet it is a gigantic army at this point. We do not collect information on ex-cons. Once they're out of the correctional system, they're invisible as far as our stat guys are concerned. But my own back of the envelope, working on some, I think, pretty good research by some of my, defiant nerd demographer colleagues, suggests that 1 in 7 adult guys has a felony record in his background. Do we really think that this has nothing to do with the circumstances that we find ourselves in today? Shouldn't we be at least a little bit curious about this? How people live, how they reintegrate into society or repair their job reputations? It's all anecdotal now because we don't collect the information that would allow us to see what's working and what's not working.
Yes, I've always thought that if you actually, for people who are serving time in prison, there's some people can get work release, but most people are going to either be reading books or be at the gym, or just be stuck, either in the common area or just frittering away years and years of their life. Has there been any effort to say, let's actually bring some genuine education here? If you do 3 years, you should come out, knowing how to do carpentry, or as an electrician, or with your associate's degree, or an undergraduate degree. I know there's some programs in that direction that are very small, but have you seen any of that work to intervene in this?
Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of good people working to try to help with reentry all around the country, but this is all a sea of anecdote at this point, and it doesn't have to be that way. It really doesn't have to be that way. And we talk about the mass incarceration situation in the United States, and that's true as far as it goes. But what we don't talk about is that for every person who's in prison, there are 10 people with a felony in their background in our general society, and they're just basically kind of invisible. We can do a lot more with skills in the United States. We've got, even with the economy softening, we have so many millions of unfilled positions, right? And some of that is a skills gap. You don't have to go to college to come up with the skill set that's going to give you a good income and let you pay for a family and a home.
Yeah.
Nick Eberstadt, thank you so much. The new book is called Human Arithmetic. We really appreciate you stopping by to break some of this down for us.
Thanks so much for inviting me.
Of course.
Hey, if you like that video, hit the like button or leave a comment below. It really helps get the show to more people.
And if you'd like to get the full show, ad-free, and in your inbox every morning, you can sign up at breakingpoints.com.
That's right. Get the full show, help support the future of independent media at breakingpoints.com.